split verdict. The jury comes back with two decisions in the bribery trial of a former Toledo City councilman. 13 Action News is live with the breaking developments from federal court. Smoke returning. Wildfires in Canada continue to burn, and we're not out of the woods yet. Dan breaks down a look at when the smoke will be back and how long it will last. Plus, killer comeback. A rare sighting of orcas could signal a big turnaround for the species.
From 13 Action News, this is a breaking news alert.
We start with breaking news in your top 4 at 4. It is a split verdict for former Toledo City Councilman Gary Johnson, guilty on one charge of bribery, not guilty on the other. I-Team reporter Sean Haggerty is live outside the federal courthouse downtown with all the details. Sean?
Yeah, with Tony, it was just about 24 hours ago, the jury telling the judge they were deadlocked and could not come to a unanimous decision. Something changed in the last 24 hours, and now we have a verdict, both guilty and not guilty. Former Toledo City Councilman Gary Johnson, hearing that verdict today, read to him he was found guilty on a bribery charge for taking $2,000 in cash in 2020 around the same time of his yes vote on an internet cafe. Johnson maintained the whole time, even while he was on the stand, the money was a campaign contribution, and in fact, he never spent the money, saying he felt uncomfortable taking that much cash in the first place. The jury acquitted Johnson on the second count of bribery. That was a $1,000 check that was given to him also around the time of another vote on an internet cafe. He voted yes on both of them. That check, by the way, was reported on his campaign finance reports. We don't know yet what charge or if it was both charges that the jury was deadlocked on. Johnson will remain on bond as they go through the sentencing process. And I want to read you something. Just a couple of minutes ago, we got a letter. The jury wrote a letter to Judge Helmick about that second charge. I want to read it to you right here. This is from the jury. It is with heavy hearts that we deliver the verdict of guilty on count 2 of the indictment of Hobbs Act extortion under the color of official rights. We believe Gary is an honest, genuine person with good intentions who was caught up in a bad situation. Sincerely, the jury. Again, that letter was written from the jury to the judge as part of the sentence today. Attorney Rick Kerger said he's really never seen anything like that before. As for the sentencing for Gary Johnson, we don't know the date yet, but we do know he could face up to 20 years behind bars.
Sean, Johnson took this all the way through trial to the end here, and we're also talking about other former city council members who may have been involved and were involved in this similar bribery scandal. But those other council members took plea deals in their cases, so what's next for them?
Yes, Yvonne Harper, Larry Sykes, and Tyrone Riley all taking guilty pleas in this case. They have a pre-sentencing report, which is now due in July, and then we'll get the idea of a date after that of when their sentencing is going to happen, so probably closer to August and September. Again, they did not come to trial. They already took guilty pleas. Yvonne Harper also pleading guilty to a conspiracy charge in this case. So we'll get an idea coming further on when those sentencings will happen.
Sean Haggerty reporting live for us this afternoon. Thanks, Sean. Story number 2 in your top 4 at 4. A tentative agreement is now reached between Clarios and the UAW workers on strike. Those workers have been on strike since early May. 2 previous deals were voted down by employees. The union's now distributing the terms of the deal to members today. They'll have a meeting tomorrow. A vote on this agreement is expected this upcoming Friday. Union representatives say until a vote is taken, they're still on strike. Now, a statement from Clarios says, in part, we appreciate the efforts and hard work of everyone involved. We are hopeful our employees will vote to approve what we see as a fair and reasonable approach. We look forward to getting back to building batteries together to support our customers. Story number 3 in your top 4 at 4. Former President Donald Trump is getting a fundraising boost on the heels of his federal indictment. Sources say Trump's presidential campaign raised more than $2 million just hours after his court appearance in Miami yesterday. Trump is now the first former president to face federal charges. He has pleaded not guilty to 37 charges involving his handling of classified documents. 31 of those are for willful retention of national defense information. Now, that includes top military secrets. In a speech to supporters last night, Trump denied any wrongdoing, claiming he had a right to those documents. Despite his fundraising success, Trump may face difficulty when it comes to gaining the support of some Republican lawmakers.
It's a right to defend himself and to put out real or unreal arguments, and the court will decide whether those are valid or not.
The elections generally are about, winning people, independent voters and moderate Republicans. We've lost 3 elections in a row now. He's been the issue in every one of those elections.
The former president already faces criminal charges related to an earlier indictment in New York. He's also under investigation in Georgia for efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election there. And rounding out your top 4 at 4, for the first time in months, the Federal Reserve has voted to skip an interest rate increase, at least for now. The Fed said today it will pause its historic rate hiking campaign to see how the economy responds. Fed officials have raised the central bank's benchmark interest rate 10 times in a row since March. This is all an attempt to cool the U.S. economy and battle inflation that's still double the Fed's target. And while Fed Chair Jerome Powell says there's still a long way to go to get the economy where it should be, he also says this may help Americans get a break from high prices.
We understand the hardship that high inflation is causing, and we remain strongly committed to bringing inflation back down to our 2% goal. Price stability is the responsibility of the Federal Reserve. Without price stability, the economy doesn't work for anyone. In particular, without price stability, we will not achieve a sustained period of strong labor market conditions that benefit all.
The Fed also signaled additional rate hikes are likely this year, potentially raising rates again after next month's meeting. After a decent round of rain last night, we have dried out and warmed up on this Wednesday. Meteorologist Dan Smith has you covered if you're heading out the door at 4. Dan?
And certainly after the 3 weeks of rain without, we could always use a little bit more. We may well get some tomorrow. At least it was nice while it was there. Maybe you fell asleep to the sound of it. I was coming out of a show actually at Stranahan, and we were all getting poured upon, but hey, at least we were kind of thankful for it actually happening at all. Even the grass just surrounding me looking a little bit healthier than it did certainly this time last week. So if you're heading out the door at 4, well, you might be like me, having to squint to see the camera over here. Might need your sunglasses for sure. Partly to mostly sunny skies. The order of your late afternoon through the early evening on this one, dipping back down into the mid to upper 60s by just about 9 o'clock at night. Now, I did mention we're going to have the return of some scattered showers, maybe even a few rumbles of thunder, mostly tomorrow afternoon. But I did want to show you at least one other aspect of this, specifically the wildfire smoke. There is the potential here for a brief return on this, unlike the several-day visit that it had here at a time last week. Now, a lot of this you see is already over us, essentially. And yes, it's looking arguably the tiniest bit hazier than usual just for the color of the sky, but you can't exactly tell yet. And all that smoke's going to stay aloft until it starts coming down to the surface eventually, mixing in some capacity for tomorrow. That surface smoke arriving later on in the evening hours, coupled really even with some of the rain. So some folks might not even notice it. Again, this is more of a wild card rather than a slam dunk for what certainly last week had been for several days at a time. All of the haze, the smoke, and what have you. And both the storms and the smoke are going to be clearing out just in time for Father's Day weekend. It looks a little bit drier for the grillers and golfers alike now. We'll have that full forecast for you in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Dan. Google in the crosshairs. Why antitrust regulators in the UK say the company is too big to continue. Plus, actor Alec Baldwin may not be in the clear after all. New developments from the deadly incident on the movie set of Rust. Action News at 4 is with you all the way until 5 o'clock.